Hey everyone, Jolt here. ExcaliBrain is an Obsidian plugin that I've built to visualize connections described in your Markdown documents in a structured graph. I realize that setting up ExcaliBrain can be a bit intimidating and there are many settings that you need to get your head around, so I thought I would create this video that will take you through from a completely empty vault all the way to having something that looks like this, take you through a use case. The use case is going to be a relatively silly, simple example. It's going to be an argument mapping, or rather a dialogue mapping example, exploring the pros and cons of setting up a remote work policy at a company. So to give you a bit of frame, I think it's important to understand the framework that we're going to be applying here. I'm going to be using the issue-based information systems framework, which is a dialogue mapping approach. And it consists of a couple of different components. It consists of issues that are typically phrased as questions. And this is how this is a dialogue mapping, because it drives a conversation about issues. And then there are positions, which are positions in response to these issues. And then there are supporting and objecting arguments that support or object the positions. And finally, there are evidences that you can attach to various nodes, as well as in the end, you reach a conclusion, which you can call a decision. Now, if you're interested in learning more about IBIS, I have a video on it with another case study. And also, you might want to take a look at the Visualizing Argumentation book, which is the source of this. It's a bit of an old book, so it might be hard to find, but anyway, this is the book that you can look for, and that discusses the topic of argument mapping using IBIS. So let's dive in. We're going to start by creating a brand new empty Obsidian Vault. I'm going to click here, create, and I'm going to type in the name ExcaliBrain, and we're going to pick a location for this, which is this right here, and then I'm going to click create. And with this, we have a new vault. Now, to get ExcaliBrain working, you need to install 3 different plugins. So we'll go ahead and start with that. So I'm going to click here on Obsidian settings, and here I'm going to click on community plugins. And in community plugins, the first time you start Obsidian, you need to accept the risks and consequences of turning on community plugins. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to browse for the different plugins that we need. So first of all, you need to install ExcaliDraw, because ExcaliBrain is built on top of ExcaliDraw, which is another plugin that I've developed. Here, after you've installed it, you need to click Enable, and you can just close this message. Then next, we are going to click on Data View, and I'm going to install Data View as well. ExcaliBrain uses Data View to extract the structure of documents. So Data View is an essential component for ExcaliBrain to work. And finally, we're going to search for ExcaliBrain, and I'm going to click Install as well. And once it's installed, I'm going to click Enable on this plugin as well. So with this, we have the basic plugins installed, and we can take a look at our plugins. So you can see that we have Data View, we have ExcaliBrain, and we have ExcaliDraw. Now, it's important to keep in mind that ExcaliBrain builds on top of ExcaliDraw. One consequence of this is some of the settings in ExcaliBrain will depend on settings in ExcaliDraw. I'll show you one example when we get to that point, but this is something good to keep in mind, and maybe this is also a bit difficult at first to understand what is coming from ExcaliDraw and what's coming from ExcaliBrain, but hopefully you'll get the hang of it. So to get us started, I'm going to create a first document in the Vault. I'm just simply going to click here to create a new node, and I'm going to title this node Remote Work Policy. This is going to be the central question in our graph, in our dialog map. And I'm going to just close this one right here. Once I've created this document, I can now open ExcaliBrain. It's very easy to start ExcaliBrain. You need to open the command palette. I'm going to press Ctrl P. If you're on a Mac, this is Command P. And I'm going to type in brain, and I'm going to choose Brain Normal. Now, Brain Normal opens in a new window within your workspace, and a Brain Pop-out will open in a pop-out window, but for now, we're going to be happy with Brain Normal. So when I click Enter, then you can see that now ExcaliBrain is open. And of course, right now we have a single document in the Vault, and that is reflected here. Now you might also notice that here I have a second document that was created, ExcaliBrain. You don't need to worry about it. This is the file that's underneath the brain file or view that you have here. You have not to worry about it, but that's a file that's always going to be overwritten by ExcaliBrain, so I recommend not editing that file. So now that we have this node here, we need to start to add children and items to it. To help us move quicker, I'm going to use my cheat sheet. So I'm going to now paste here the question, the initial question. So should the company implement a remote work policy? And I'm going to add the two positions here. One position is a yes to remote work. The other position is a no to remote work. And you can see that as I did this, the graph on the right-hand side started to develop. Now, if I click on yes, the company should implement a remote work policy, just to show you. So this here is a wiki link. So I have the first part of the link is the file name, and then after the pipe character, I have the alias for this file, what's being displayed right there. If I click on this link, then that creates this new file. So this is now created. This is yes to remote work policy. You can see on the right hand side, the diagram has changed. So yes to remote work is now in the center. It has a parent, which is remote work policy. And it also has a distant relation, which is this other position here, which is the no to remote work. Now, if I'm just going to copy this material over here as well to fill this in, so this is going to be a position, and notice what I'm doing here. So at the top, I'm adding this tag. So I'm going to zoom in so you can better see. So I have a tag here, which is called position. And here as well, when I clicked the remote work policy, you can see that this had a tag question at the top. We are going to use these to format the nodes. Also, what you will notice is yes to remote work now looks different compared to no to remote work. The difference is that this node has been created and this doesn't yet exist in the Vault. And ExcaliBrain can format it differently. This is actually a super good feature, because this way you can also see connections between nodes that are not yet in your Vault. But you also notice that this now looks different compared to the example I showed in the beginning. First of all, you see the dashed line and the items are under the central item, not to the right, and also the coloring and the look and feel is different. So what do we do about this? We're going to come to plugin settings, and we're going to start to play a bit with ExcaliBrain settings so you can see how you can format this. So first of all, I'm going to click here on Settings, and I'm going to click here on ExcaliBrain. You have lots of settings here for the time being. We're not going to touch these. I'm going to come all the way down to styling, and first of all we're going to add these two tags that we've created. So one was the question and the other one was the position. So we need to manually add the tags that we want to use for formatting purposes. And once I've added the tags here, then I can choose here in this, and I need to add a comma in between. So it's question, comma, position. And once I've added them, then the items will appear here. So if you noticed, when I don't have a comma, then these two items appear in a single row. That's not good. You need to add your comma right here. And once I have the comma there, then I can start to format this. For the question, all I want is a question mark at the beginning of the question. So the way this works, and this might be a bit hard to comprehend at the beginning, is everything is inherited from the base note style. So the base note style, you can see all the settings of the base note style, lots of different settings. If I create a new node type, for example, position, by default, everything is inherited. If I turn this switch, then I'm only going to see the non-inherited items, which in this case is nothing because this is already the next section. So to customize the position, I first need to flip the switch to customize the prefix. So I'm going to flip the switch. With this, I tell ExcaliBrain that the position will look exactly the same as the base note style, except that the prefix is going to be different. And I'm going to bring up the emoji toolbar, and I'm going to choose this light bulb. So for me, a position is represented by an idea. And I also want to change the background color of the idea node. So I'm going to turn the background color switch on as well. I'm going to change the opacity. So this is the transparency of the node to 100%, and I'm going to choose a different color. I'm going to try to choose a nice dark yellow color, somewhere like this. I'm happy with this color, maybe a bit yellower like that. So there you can see how the new format or new node looks like. This actually doesn't look that very good, so we're going to look for a darker yellow, maybe even yellow. This is going to be good. So I'm going to choose this orange red color. So with this, I formatted the position, and then I'm also going to format the question node. And for the question node, I'm only going to add a prefix, and the prefix is going to be this question mark like this. And now when I close settings, then what you will see is the formatting for the remote work policy is now indeed a question. I wonder why we have an issue with the position. So this is spelled correctly. Maybe I have an issue here with the letter case. Oh no, it's with the spelling. So now I corrected the spelling. Unfortunately, after I correct the spelling, I need to redo my settings. So the position is going to be this light bulb, and I'm going to set the color to, again, this orange red. Actually, I'm going to set it like this, to this orange red, like this. And then when I close this, then you can see that now we have the formatting like this. Yeah, so this is not an ideal formatting. Maybe we should change the font color of the position item as well. So here I can again scroll down to styling. I can choose position, and I also want to change the text color, and I wanted the text color to be black. And I think with that, now the position looks much nicer. Now you can also notice that no to remote work is still not yellow, and that's because there is no document, so there's no tag. And if there's no tag, then there's no style. But we can do something about it, so we're going to create this document right here. What I'm going to do is here in ExcaliBrain, if I hold down the Shift key and click on a node, then I'm prompted with this question if I want to create a new Markdown document or a new ExcaliDraw file. So I'm going to say I want to create a new Markdown document. So this node to remote work file was now created, and I'm going to just copy in the contents of node to remote work. So we're going to have the position, then the title of the question, and then the supporting argument. And now you can see that at least we got the colors right. But the locations are still not good. I mean, the positions are under the central question, and I want them to be on the right hand side. So we still need to do some things. So you can see here in this row that I have something that's going on here. So I have here position, and I have double columns here, and then I have the name of the file. This right here, this position double column, is called an data view field, and ExcaliBrain is using these fields to understand the ontology, which is the description of connections between items. So this is what describes the relationship between this document, the question, and this item here, which is a position. So to make ExcaliBrain recognize this ontology, you have two options. So first of all, I'm going to just right click here. So in this line, if I right click, then you will see this menu item in the context menu, add position to ExcaliBrain ontology. When I click this, then I can choose what sort of relationship this is going to have with the central node. Now, I don't want to go into the details of these different type of nodes. Later on, we can touch on it, and also I have other videos that will explain. For now, just believe me that this should be a next friend. The nature of a next and previous friend is it's a relative position compared to the center, because the next is to the right of the central node when it's still next, but when they move, then it comes to the left, because then for the next node it's the previous, while the left side and right side friends always stay on the right and the left side, regardless of the two nodes moving to the center. I'm sure that this was complete gibberish to you, but I think let me show you how next works, and then later on we can also look at left side friends and right side friends. A good example for that, and I'm going to include that in the video description, is the compass of Zettelkasten. I have an ExcaliBrain video about that, and that explains, I think, much better the right and left side friends. But for now, I'm going to click here on Next Friends. And when I do that, you see that ExcaliBrain already recognized that these should be on the right-hand side. And you can also see that the line is now a solid line, not a dashed line. And that's because the dashed line means it's an inferred relationship. I infer the relationship because there's a link in the document, and then I infer that the two have some relationship with one another. The moment I explicitly state in the ontology what the relationship is, so it's a position, from that moment on, this comes to the right-hand side. So I think we're going to stop here for part 1. I'm going to continue on with part 2, and you can tune into part 2, but I think so far I've already shared enough with you that I recommend that you create a new Obsidian Vault. You download these 3 plugins and you play with these settings that we've looked at until now, and then you come back for part 2, where we're going to continue with the customization of the settings, as well as we're going to continue to build this ExcaliBrain. Thank you.